again, we're on the mindset call, and just about like a phone training, basically mindset and just sales scenarios. So the first thing I'm just going to touch on for the new agents, Nicole, Andrew, Noel, Marsha, Linda, you as well, even Nathaniel. I know you've been dialing and doing a good, Nathaniel, but it's always good for a refresher. Guys, keep in mind that when you guys are, calling your clients and you're starting as a new agent, you want to be very consistent, right? So you want to make sure that everything you're doing in all aspects, again, you're consistent. So consistency in buying leads, consistency in schedule, consistency in dialing, consistency in like what I'm saying over the phone to that person to make sure I can book my appointments, book my schedule. I know if I tell most like, Heather, Marisa, Christina to unmute and say, hey, go ahead and start saying your script, they have it memorized by now because they understand that if they say it over and over again the same way, you have a higher chance to not sound like a robot. So keep in mind that you really want to nail your phone script as a new agent. You want to find exactly which lead type you're dialing and hit it, right? Just make sure you're really focusing on that. Same time, you want to buy them, right? You have to buy leads. Again, keep in mind, guys, we all know this, especially new agents. So Nicole, Noel, Andrew, leads is your business, as you guys know that. Just keep in mind that if you guys don't buy leads, you're going to be out of business, and I mean that. So just please make sure to continue to do lead resolution as well. All that means is basically getting a yes or a no. Some people are going to tell you like, I'm not interested. I need to think about it, and I'll discuss those momentarily, like the small little objections, what you guys can do. But the main thing is that you just want to keep in mind that the faster you can get through that lead stack, the faster you get to the people who actually just need the insurance. And they're not going to argue. They're not going to object to you. They're going to say, yeah, I do want this. Yes, I made the request. On top of that, it's, tonality is really key. I've noticed that now going on telesales, learning from Marisa, you really have to match your tone. And especially from Heather, like your tone is key. And I'm assuming most of you guys are doing telesales. If you're not, just write in the chat so you're not at home. But if you're doing telesales, you need to make sure your tonality is good. For me, in the beginning, I struggle with that. I talk fast, as you guys can tell. I can mumble at times. But I realized that, on the phone, slow down, slow and steady, focus on what you're saying, and use certain word tracks. Like, okay, you're like most families. You want to protect your loved one to make sure there's no burden. When you're going through like your initial appointment script and you ask who are you looking to protect, make sure, guys, you're saying that sentence after. If they say, my wife, my son, my brother, my funeral, just say perfect. You're like most families. You want to protect to make sure there's no burden. I understand. And go right back into your script. That's with the phones. It's going to help you transition more. So again, consistency in transition words, right? Your actual dialing, and then schedule, I think, is the most important thing. Because if you're not dialing, or you say you're dialing, but you're not, let's say I hop on at 9 a.m. and for my slot, right? But then I'm sitting there, I'm just on my phone, not doing much like this, just waiting. I can say I'm here, right? I can say I'm on the dial team and dialing, but am I really? No. So keep in mind, guys, that hold yourself accountable, right? Make sure that you are truly dialing when you say you're going to. That way, you can't complain you're not getting results because we can just say, hey, you're not dialing. Like, you're not making your numbers. Like Marisa says and Christina, you guys always want to have that dial sheet to be filled, right? That's my biggest goals. Every dial day, especially now doing telesales, I want to make sure I have that dial sheet filled because I know I have the most chance of seeing success, right? And just like Christina said, leads is the bloodline of the business. Without the leads, you are going to go basically bankrupt per se in the business. Regarding objections, what
Sorry,
objections do you guys get the most?
Rami, can I just interject for a second here on
Yes,
the
I can hear
on the
you. I
Google?
apologize.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry. One of the things about dialing and on dial a day is important to everybody in telesales to remember is that you absolutely don't dial all day, every day. We're not dumb. Everybody knows that there's other things with the business, right? So what's important here is you dial or you put on your schedule. When we say schedule, we mean put it on your schedule that I'm dialing from this hour to this hour, and don't screw it up. Don't get on the phone with the carrier. Don't, play Candy Crush, whatever the heck you do, right? So it's important that you dial, but put it on your calendar. Carrier time, put it on your calendar. Admin time, put it on your calendar. Hiring time, put it on your calendar. Like literally have it broken down to where you basically take breaks to go pee. And if you do that and stick to it, that's where you're going to see that's what we mean by that is making sure that you get your dial time in, but break up for other parts of your day for other things. Add in another dial time if you have to. I actually do 2 times a day where I have a dial time on my calendar because I can't get it all in at one time. There's just too much other stuff to go on. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Of course. And she's right, exactly.
And
That schedule
just
is
to
very key.
piggyback off that really quickly too, sorry to interject, Rami, but it just
So,
coincides. Jack Yu, I'm not sure if you guys are all familiar with him, but he's really just impressive within the insurance industry. He's worked at different companies, and coming into FFL, one of the biggest things he talks about is the importance of time blocks. Now, when Jack talked about this in an actual, conversation, I was like, is Jack really that scheduled, right? Kind of like what Heather's saying, like, is Heather really that scheduled? Now, if you look at her schedule, like she is indeed that scheduled. Now, when I looked at Jack's schedule, I hadn't looked at, anyone's schedule from Heather's to mine in terms of a telesales mindset. And when I looked at it, what I realized now Jack's group is helping, thousands of families a month. So he's not only on heavy on the building side, but also personally producing. So he's like, how can I speak with the carriers? How can I make sure I'm communicating with my agents? How can I make sure I'm showing up for myself and my clients? And a big attribute that went back to that, it was Jack literally looked me dead in the face on the last producer cruise. He said, honestly, Marisa, all I really do is from 10 to 3, it is not negotiable. I am on the phone and I am dialing. Like after 3 o'clock, at that point, that ends my dial time. And now Jack Yu's been doing this for quite some time. So for him to work those 5 hours, 6 days a week, to him, that makes sense. Now, to someone who's just getting started, you might need a little bit more than Jack needs, right? But guys, I just want to point that out, to point it out, like even the best people in this business, the reason why they're the best is because they actually schedule everything. There's way too many hats that we can wear in this business and make an excuse of like, we could all right now, like literally be like, oh, we can't get on the team call. We can't even talk until like 3 weeks from now. We can't dial because we have to call every insurance company and figure, no. You need to make sure that your highest priority, if right now your highest priority is having the ability to produce income for your family, then those dial times are also the highest priority because those are income producing activities. Now, calling American Amicable or whatever carrier, I love American Amicable, but to see, why it went ROP, that's not going to be at the top of my to-do list when the top of my to-do list is make money for my family. I'm going to find a new company. I'm going to go with the new company and I'm going to move on. Because my point is when you're dialing, you need to be dialing. You have to be honest with yourself. And if nobody's answered the phone, this has always been my predominant rule. If nobody's answered the phone in 1 hour, you should have at least 100 dials. It's a good barometer for you to go off for yourself and make sure that you're just staying engaged in those times that you are actually physically manning the phone and dialing. If you have a power dialer, it should be going even faster than that if nobody's answering the phones. I know I went down a rabbit hole there, but guys, we make money on the phone. If we do not prioritize that time, nothing else is going to ever be a priority. So I just wanted to hijack the call real quick, Rami. Thanks.
So yes, exactly. So like I said, as you guys can tell, the consistent theme is schedule, right? Do what you say you're gonna do, and basically just again, like you have to invest in yourself and believe that you can make this work. Regarding just the basic objections, you guys will go through that with experience. I mean that the more you dial, it's like muscle memory. It's like shooting a basketball shot. You can shoot a shot once, 10 times, 20 times. You may have good form a couple of shots, you may have crappy form a few shots. But if you practice, your shot over time will be the same shot, and you start to make them in, right? Same thing goes with dialing. So you just want to make sure that when you're getting told I'm not interested, or screw off, I don't need this, or give me a call back later, it's okay to tell the client, no, this phone call will take 25 seconds. Like, don't be afraid to tell the client, like, no, like what you're saying doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you answer the phone if you're busy? Like Marisa always told me that from the first day I worked here. If I was at work in the hospital and I'm getting literally working and I have someone calling me and I answer, I have the time to answer. I do. Maybe it's for a minute or 2 minutes. That's all we need. The average time, guys, for an appointment setting literally is 2 minutes. You're on the phone, maybe 5, 7 if you actually take a little bit longer to like have them write it down. But every phone call when you're booking an appointment should be 2 to 5 minutes. You shouldn't be on there for like 10 minutes going through discovery call, asking all these questions. If you're setting an appointment, doing one call close, follow your script the way it should be. And of course, it's a much longer phone call. But keep in mind that again, that it's okay to tell them like what you truly believe is right. So if they say, I'm not interested, you can say, okay, you can say, I'm not interested either. It's my job as a person assigned to you to explain the programs, but you can say why you think you're not interested. Is it value related? Is it price related? Do you think it's too expensive? Do you think you're not going to qualify? Do you not want to protect your family? Don't be afraid to be that blunt, because if you're that direct people over the phone, they're not going to look at you as a sales guy. They're going to say, okay, like this person's actually asking me a question. They're trying to figure out, do I have adequate protection needed? Just keep in mind that, again, you will have a lot of people object you, but it's okay. Like, it's good to get objections because it's going to get you better. Don't be the type that gets told no a few times and then you kind of crumble and you think that it's the lead type, it's the script, it's the system. It's not, guys. There's a lot of agents in this company who use all the same systems and scripts, and they're actually at a very high level. The main difference is they show up every single day, they dial every day, they're going through these rebuttals and objections. So when they are told, oh, I think it's going to be too expensive, they're going to say, okay, I understand that. However, I work with 85 different companies. It's my job to get the lowest rate possible. It's going to take me 10, 15 minutes to explain these options. What time are you and the wife typically home on a Monday or Tuesday or Friday or Saturday? If you're doing a one call close, I'm sure you guys have a way to kind of tie that in. I don't do one call closes, so I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it because I don't do them. But what I will say is if I did have someone on the phone and they're there, I'd say, do you have 10, 15 minutes to grab pen and paper and actually sit down and receive the information? If they're driving, I'm going to say, all right, when are you home? Like, I've done that recently a lot. People I'm calling for telesales and they say, I have time now. Like, you guys heard me on dial 2 months. The guy said, oh, I have time right now, but he didn't. He was driving. I'm like, listen, it's going to take me more than 30, 45 minutes. I need you to give me a call back when you're home. I called him back when he was sitting at home and I wrote him. And I know if I continued the phone call that morning at 9 a.m., he wouldn't have, purchased the policy because he would have been driving. He's not focusing. He's not, really thinking. So don't be afraid to mold them around your schedule. Okay. Like, again, just because they answer the phone doesn't mean they're ready at that point in time. So just make sure that exactly he wasn't in a business environment. Just make sure that, again, that you are like, yeah, doctor patient mindset. You take control and you tell them, all right, I'll give you a call back at this point in time. And you guys can just continue on and make your sales to that point. And if they tell you guys again that I got it taken care of, just ask a few questions. At this point, they've already got insurance. They've already sat with a broker. They've called to someone for life insurance, which means they did a lot of legwork. So you don't have to really sit there and build too much need in that. All you got to figure out is what was the purpose? Why did they get the insurance in the first place? Who's the company? And can we put them in a better situation? I know if I took my car and want to buy a car, and I just bought one, I go to a mechanic one day or I bring it to a dealership and they say, hey, it's a really nice car, but I can get you the same exact one for X amount cheaper on a better finance rate. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to say, okay, how can you help provide me a better rate for myself? And now we're talking about family. It's not a car, guys. So when you can provide a family more benefits, like someone that may have a term policy through Banner, where you can put them into living benefits, maybe they have a policy that has no cash back or ROP. There's ways, again, to kind of explain to them that I know you think you have it covered, but my job is to explain the best option for you, and it will only take me 15 minutes. Do you have right now 15 minutes to grab pen and paper? And don't be afraid to tell them, go grab the pen and paper. Be very direct. Say, do you have time right now? This and that. We're on the phone with them. During an appointment, it's different because you want to make sure they're, again, available. But when they're booking the appointment, I've realized that just take control, guys. Should be very assumptive. I hope you guys know what I mean by that. As in, again, just you're in control. You are the doctor. They are the patient. You don't go to the doctor and say, hey, prescribe me XYZ. If that was the case, the whole world would be upside down. We listen to professionals, and all of us here on the call today, we got professionals in this insurance industry. So I hope that can make sense regarding objections and people basically telling you, we don't need it, we don't want it, it's too expensive for me. At the end of the day, guys, there's always a product that can fit their budget. Now, I had a client recently, they wanted like a $300,000 policy, but they had no life insurance for burial. So instead of me sitting there and trying to drill into their head that, they can't afford 300,000 and it's gonna be this, and try to make it, give them what they want, I explained to them, that's not a need, it's a want, right? There's a difference, necessity and a want. People want everything in life, right? But people need certain things. They needed a whole life policy. So I helped them out with whole life. And at the end of the day, now they're protected and I have an appointment for them and their kids. But if I just thought about it as, you know what, I'm just going to tell them what they're asking me for, I wouldn't have made that sale. Because at the end of the day, I had to explain to them that you think you need this, that's not what you need. This is what you need. So I hope that can make sense. And Marisa, if you want to elaborate a little more on that, I know that you deal with it a lot on the phones as well.
I think you hit it right on the head in terms of, like need versus want. And I always I tell my friends when I was 20, I told my friends, guys, like we all need a whole life plan because there's going to come a day where our parents or our loved ones going to have to put us in the ground. hopefully later than sooner, but like the day is going to come. And if not, it's going to act like a vehicle that will accumulate some cash value. But at least, you know, you're not leaving the burden on your parents who took care of you for your whole life, right? Now we flip that script. It's like everybody needs whole life insurance. So if you're there and you're saying like, someone's telling you, I need 300,000, but like Rami's like, they don't even have 30, you know, they don't even have 10,000 to cover their final expenses. No, you need to take care of your final expenses, sir, because what is Mary going to do when she can't take care of your final expenses? Never mind make the mortgage payment, right? So, Jordan, unmute, go for it, dude. What's up?
So like my quick question is just pretty much when you are kind of setting up those appointments and you have people, you know, set up for days around your schedule, how you were saying, Rami, how do you take care of, or when did you kind of get to the point to where you kind of like start pushing off those leads that you set the appointment for, they don't show, you follow up, and then when you're getting in contact with them, then they're like, oh, I don't have time, or I don't have the money for it right now, things like that. And so when do you kind of get to the point to where you're like, okay, this is a dead lead, or this person is like kind of giving me the runaround and having me chase them?
So I have a three strike rule. That's me personally. I do have a three strike rule. So if I call you once and you tell me like you don't need it, you know, it's too expensive. I understand that sometimes people have emotional responses. I do my own self in a lot of things in life, but then sometimes people have, you know, the proper response, right? There's an emotional response. There's a response you get like when someone actually is thinking and they have like a logical response. And there's one that's it's a mix of both, right? Like they kind of understand where you're coming from. So in your situation, Jordan, let's say you're calling me, right? And every single time you're setting an appointment and I no show you. And once I no show you, I don't automatically disregard you, but I keep in my mind that, all right, you're not that serious right now about this because there might be something going on. Maybe I caught you on a bad day at work. Maybe, you know, something popped up and you couldn't talk to me because over the phone, guys, you know, if it's in person and this is happening, it's a little bit different. We can target it and say it's in your script. There's something going on the phone. A lot of things can happen, right? Where life happens. So what I do is, again, I have like the three strike rule where basically I'll set them three different times. After three different times, I move on, Jordan. I just completely go on to the next lead. And I think that, you know what? If they need the insurance and they're serious, right, they're going to come back around at all times. And all I have to do is put them on the side and remember to reach out to them at one point. Because again, I can call you in June and you tell me, no, you don't want it. But I call you back September and you act like you never spoke to me. Then all of a sudden, you know, you and your whole family are signing up for insurance. The ones who say, you know, I can't afford it, I don't need it, I remind them why they filled it out. I said, first of all, you made this request knowing that you need the insurance. And that at the end of the day, everyone can afford something, right? Unless they're living paycheck to paycheck. If they're really living paycheck to paycheck, you have to be honest with that family and say, listen, first of all, why did you make this request? Truly, like, why did you make it? Because if you really can't afford it today, you can't afford it in the future. And then you really want to drill into them that you don't want your family, you know, making a lump sum payment. You want them to have, you want to have a monthly payment that covers a lump sum overall. So with that being said, when they give you the runaround and you're kind of, like you said, kind of chasing them per se, you just kind of back off a bit and then let the other leads do the work for you. So continue through your stack, find the people who need help, and then those ones who basically got away from you, one or two things will happen. You'll call them again down the line and they will end up answering and you'll be able to help them, or they're just going to be a dead lead. And it's called lead resolution. At least at that point in time, you tried to give their options, you know, you tried to reach them several times. At this point, it's them. They're adults, right? If they can't stick to an appointment, what makes you kind of think that they may stick to, you know, paying the premium? And that's how I look at it. I look at business as I want it to be clean business and stay on the book. So if I have multiple people who keep telling me no, 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 I'm not going to disregard them completely, but I'm going to go to the ones who need my help. Does that make sense? I just continue to go through them and I don't dwell. So again, it comes back to mindset. You don't want to dwell too much in it because you're going to have, again, 30% of people will buy insurance from anybody. 30% won't buy from anyone at all. And then you're going to have 40%, you're going to have to kind of, you know, convince that they're going to turn that curiosity into intent and make them think that, okay, I do need this. So that's what my recommendation would be. Is just keep moving on, you know, just get past them. It's okay if they're not answering you. It's okay if they no show you. Just know that you do have people there who need the help. I know it can be stressful as a new agent, you know, having either limited leads or just having appointments set and you're counting on these to show up and then they're not there. But it's okay because again, if you keep dialing, the numbers always work out in your favor. And we all know that. You know, we've all had cold streaks for weeks and then all of a sudden make a couple sales. So that would be my recommendation. Just focus on the ones who need the help.
Yep.
Okay.
And Jordan, I'm also going to add to that a little bit back to, once again, I feel like I'm always saying this to everybody, but It's the schedule. One thing that I do for the 3 strikes you're out, because I actually use that too. I didn't know it was called that, but thank you for that. Is after when I dial them and there are no show on my calendar, I mark them. So they're on my calendar. If you're using any kind of a system, your calendar could be updated with a different color. So I color them a certain color. It's red. They're a no show. Once they're a red, 1 day a week on my calendar, I have call all no shows. So everyone in the past week or month, if I haven't gotten to it, gets called again. And then if they don't answer, I leave a message and that's it for them. Then those leads that you have extra in your CRM, you can sort those out 6 months later to a year later and call them again. All no shows, call them again, right? But you're not wasting your time looking at them, wishing that they had answered and stuff like that. It's just a system. And if you develop your own system like that, that'll help you to catch up to those later on.
Thank you for that, Heather. That's really nice. I definitely would take that advice. The other question I have is, what transitions would you typically use for someone that's adamant towards what they want, right? Because I know you're talking about, obviously you want to be the doctor-patient mindset, let them know, hey, this is what you need, not, what you want. But then, like, even though you're trying to tell them what they need, is like, yeah, no, I don't need this, I want this. And I'm like, you're trying to let them know, like, hey, understand that this is what you want. Like, for example, one of the clients that I have for mortgage protection, he has a $300,000 mortgage and he wanted something that's $300,000 for $100 a month. He's 61 years old, right? It's literally virtually impossible to find something around that price point for him. So as I'm trying to find the need for him, he's just kind of like, nah, just get to the point. I just want price. So how do you handle clients like that?
By asking the right questions. So you have to use your questions to kind of explain to them what they need. So when someone tells me like, all right, I want $100,000 policy, $100 a month, I slow them down. I say, okay, I understand that, but I'm going to tell you my role, my purpose, and can help you accomplish today. I go through my role and purpose. So I establish the fact that, again, I'm setting the table. We're doing an application today. I'll tell you what you need. We'll go over things you have in place. And then when I get down to my inventory, I'm going to ask him certain things and the wife. So in your mortgage section, right? Let's say he wants a $300,000 policy for $100 a month. I would go down to it. I'd see how much is his equity in the property, how much is house value. I would congratulate him on the equity, saying, hey, it's a good thing you have this. What's your monthly payment? Do you pay any extra towards the mortgage? And the second I get those key piece of information, I ask him, what does that look like if you died yesterday for your wife today? And then he's going to tell me. He's going to say, this is what it looks like. But I ask the wife too. They both got to be there. So I ask the wife. She'll tell me. I'll say, hey, Bob, you died yesterday. You can't talk. Now what's going to happen is she's going to tell me by nature what's it going to be like. It's going to be tough for Rami. I know I can't make it without his income here. If anything happens to me, I'm forced to sell the house. I don't know what I'm going to do. With that answer, and he's hearing that from his wife, he's no longer thinking about getting $100 a month payment with $300,000. He's thinking, how can I comfort her and make sure that this house is taken care of? Now, on the paper he got, sure, it says participate in low-cost mortgage insurance for $100,000, pay off your home. That's okay. The main point is, again, by asking the right questions, you want to build up that need for him to understand is, you know what, it's not about, getting the full mortgage cover. It's about making sure she avoids probate. Then you ask a hard question. You say, guys, did the broker ever take the time to explain to you what your house would look like if one of you passed away? If you lose a borrower or an income earner, 78% of foreclosures are due to loss of income of death of a primary borrower or any type of borrower or the major income earner. So then you ask a very hard question again, ma'am, if you were to lose all of your husband's income, you make 3, he makes 3, that's 6,000 together. If he dies, your 6,000 goes down to 3,000. Using 50% of the income, how do you replace it? Let them talk. She's going to tell you how she's going to replace it. And when you start asking those hard questions, again, I mean it. He's going to lose complete sight of the full payout for 100,000. At this point, he's like, get me any insurance. He's like, I just want to make sure that my wife is protected. And then when you get through the inventory, you're going to ask more and more questions, with the income to see exactly what they need. You're going to use transition phrases like you're like most families. You do not need a full payoff. You do not need the full loan cover because every year it's going to get less. Doesn't that make sense, sir? Every single year you make a payment. Is that true? He's going to say yes. Close-ended question. Okay, perfect. Is it fair to say that in 10 years from now, your mortgage is not going to be where it's at today? It's going to be 10 years lower, right? Yes. Okay. I know you're not betting on yourself dying today. Is that a fair statement? All right. So you're like most of my families. You're not betting yourself dying. You want to make sure that down the line, when you're 75, 85, when that time does come, You have adequate insurance in place to protect your family and avoid probate. Now I see why you made your request. I continue, I go right back down to my script. What do you have today that acts as mortgage insurance or life insurance? And they tell me, yes, let's say 50,000. I say, great, that's $50,000 off your mortgage. So now I need 50,000. You don't need it. And if he says no, it's for the final expenses, I say, perfect. So this policy here is strictly for the mortgage. I separate the need. By that point, I ask about the health. I understand what he qualifies for. Then I handle the three types. There's a full payoff, partial payoff, and equity rescue. So at that point in time, now he knows there's multiple options available. In the beginning, he did tell me like, hey, I want $100 a month for this XYZ. But after having that kind of conversation with him, and after, explaining to him that your wife needs this, she's telling you how much she needs, she's explaining to you she can't be here without your income. Right now, all he cares about is making sure in the most important time when he passes, she has enough income to stay in the property. And whether that be only a $35,000 policy or a $20,000 policy that gives her 7 to 8 months of payments comparing to zero, you explain that with this policy here, she avoids probate, she keeps the house. She makes the monthly payments, your assets will transfer over, she'll be okay. You have things in place to kind of help offset your retirement. On this side, without it, your assets, your retirement, things you have saved in place are paying your mortgage. And I know you, like most of my families, you guys did not put your 401k in place or your IRA to pay off your mortgage upon death. This is meant for your retirement. So again, I tie it back down. You're like most families, you just need enough time to make sure that when you pass away, your wife is okay and she has enough monthly payments covered to keep the mortgage and avoid foreclosure. At this point in time, I just pushed an equity rescue, but I didn't even do it yet. Now I tell them, okay, flip the paper over and write this down for me. Critical period equity rescue. And I go into it. So that's how I know I gave you a lot there, but that's the mindset you want to have, is by asking the right questions. And think of your like financial inventory like a Swiss Army knife. Think of it, the more questions you're going to ask, the better you're going to do. And the one that asks the most questions always wins. So that's how I would kind of handle a situation when people say, this is what I need, this is what I want. Just go through their assessment, truly. Like take the time to go into it, ask the right questions. They will have an epiphany by themselves saying, he's right. I would love to have, this covered at $100 a month, but I can't due to my age and health. The next best thing is I'm going to go for this. And that's when we make GIWL like the best thing possible for people who they can't qualify for anything. You want to make whatever they can qualify for the best thing for them and their family. And 10 most of the times it is, guys. It's just about, again, want versus need. I hope that made sense. I didn't go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. So what about for like a different scenario as far as this person, let's say this person don't have a spouse, right? They have children. And then for that point, you're trying like when do you, like, cause it gets to the point to where like, obviously you're doing a lot of explaining and you're asking questions, right? But they're like kind of going off track and they're not really kind of staying on point on what exactly you're asking. And so when do you kind of get to the point where you start, respecting your own time and just pull the plug? Because there's some cases where like I'm talking to a client and I asked him a question about like, okay, this is not the same client, a different one. And I asked him just, his daughter lives out in Wisconsin, right? And that was the one that was going to take care of the final expenses. So pretty much asked him, okay, what do you have in place right now? And he had 2 term policies, but he didn't know when that was going to expire. So I wanted to kind of get into that, but he didn't really want to go into that. So I was okay, that's perfectly fine. Now we know that those policies are not permanent. They're going to be expiring very soon. What else do you have happening with life insurance? He's like, well, that's about it, but I do want to cancel these term policies. I was like, okay. So if you want to cancel the term policies, what do you want to like, or not necessarily what do you want to do, but when I asked him was, okay, obviously you want to be able to put something permanently in place to cover your final expenses. Is that fair to say? He was like, yes. I was like, okay. What would that look like for your family if something was to happen to you tomorrow? And when I asked him that question, he kind of just like went on a whole tangent about like a whole bunch of like it was like literally had nothing to do with my question. And then like during that time, he's like talking himself out of the insurance. And so it's like, when do you kind of get to the points where it's like, okay, like this person don't even want to protect their family. Like they're just kind of thinking about themselves. They're being a little bit selfish. And it's like, the phrase that you told me to use, like, I can't care more about your family than you do. So it's like, when do you kind of, get to that point to like, okay, I can't waste too much more time because I got other families I got to start calling because they sent in the request as well.
That's a good question. Exactly. So it's when you've asked, like, you want to ask the power questions, right? Like, what does it look like when you die? Who's going to take over? Who is that concern for you today? And when he starts answering those questions, that's the surface way. Take it, and then if he tells you like, hey, I don't want the term, at that point in time, is I want to cancel a permanent, just go into the transition of like kind of going to the coverage. But if you're still adamant and going on, you did the right job. You tell them, hey, sir, at this point in time, you're not letting me help you. Like in the beginning, you want to set the table. So your role and purpose should be set in every, I know you know this, I tell you all the time, but the role and purpose should be set in every single home in the very beginning or on the phone. It's the only constant. It's going to set the table where he knows he's doing an application today. Like he understands that, whatever we're doing, application, get me qualified, you do the shopping around. So if someone, but after you do all that and you do the inventory and you're still trying to argue at that point, like you said, then when to pull a trigger with someone when they're on the phone because they're being very like abrasive, they're being aggressive at this point. Like you said, they're beginning to talk themselves out of it. When that happens, try to tie them back to the primary need. Say, sir, I understand right now you're a little frustrated, but again, you want me to help your family. That's all I'm trying to do. And I want to make sure at the end of the day that when these insurance policies expire, you have something permanent in place today to take care of your family. When he starts going down rabbit hole, that may not even be you, Jordan. Maybe the guy, right? Think at the same time. Don't give every client the benefit of the doubt. Then he may just be a weirdo. I'm being serious. He may just start talking and going off rabbit holes, and that's what they do sometimes. So it may not be you. It could be him. Keep that in mind. And at the end of the day, you know when to pull the cord. Just basic. If someone's, you can tell like when they're being a pain in the ass. Like you can say, all right, like, hey, you told me you want to protect your family. Here's all these reasons why. But then now you're like arguing me. At this point in time, me personally, I say, hey, I can't care about your family more than you do. If you want to go ahead and get qualified to protect your family, like most families, I have no problem assisting in the application. But if not, I got my hands tied. That's all I can do. And just move on. Just go on to the next. In regards to the question you asked earlier, by the way, about when someone says, I just want a quote, I just want numbers, the easiest thing to tell them is that you don't want to do them and their family a disservice. You just want to say, listen, I can't give you a range because I do work with many companies and every family situation is different. Now, what I can tell you is that it's going to be based off your age and your health. In order for me to figure this out, you have to tell me the medications you're on. We have to have a quick 10, 15-minute conversation to see what you're going to qualify for. The guy might say, okay, well, I still just want a quote. You say, well, any person you talk to, in order to get a real quote, you're going to have to tell them, your medications, a couple of things about yourself so that you're actually qualifying for this. I can easily tell you today the lowest cost insurance. If you can't qualify for it, why am I even telling you it? You're not going to qualify. You're just going to get mad at me for it. And I've told the client that. I said, listen, I can tell you today the cheapest cost policy available. But if you're not going to qualify for it, you're going to blame me. And then now you're going to shop around trying to find this price, but it's not going to be feasible for you because you just can't qualify. So remember, it's about what they can qualify for when they want numbers, and tie it back to you're a broker, you're the shopping around. It's just your job to explain the options. You just need 10, 15 minutes. And if you can tie it back down to that, then you'll be able to. If they don't, it's okay, Jordan. Again, like leads aren't sales, right? You're gonna get a lot of people who do want quotes. If that's the case, send them ethos. Like here's an ethos quote. It's okay to try to get them on the phone, right? Get the appointment. And if you exhaust all resources, just send them a quick quote via text message, send them like the ethos, let them do it themselves. You'd be surprised. Sometimes they respond back. They'll say, hey, I want this. That's fine. That fits it. When can we do the application? I recently had a few clients where literally I'm like, how should I make the sale? Literally they text her and like, I want option A. I want option B. And she's scrambling, trying to find the paper. Like, I don't know where it went. And there's people who all she did was text and say, hey, I know you're trying to protect your family, but they went through the presentation. You want to quote, here's the number. And at the end of the day, guys, they will call back if they need it. So at the same time, I don't want to tell you guys not to do that, but do it. Send them a text sometimes. Say, it's okay to say, here's the quote. But on the phone, tie it back to I'm the broker. I do the shop around for you. It's based on your health. So I can tell you the cheapest cost. If you're not going to qualify for it, it's not going to really matter. Let's, put some time in place to get you guys the best rate possible. I think that's my job. It's my job to get the information to you. So if you don't want to do it, I'm sorry. That's all I can do. Does that make sense? All right.
And Jordan, just real quick, because I know I've been on, that same side of the phone, so to say, as you, where you're like, okay, like I need Robert to get off the phone more than Robert could ever imagine right now, because Robert's wasting my time, right? Like I've been there. And you're in that predicament, like in your heart, like like, hey, Robert is not going anywhere. He's talking to me now about his best friend or whatever it is. It's going somewhere, or you can internally feel like this person's making me feel upset, and that that's not going to help you go through your day better, right? Now, there's going to be times where we got to like rock with the client because they're a little bit different than us. I don't mean like that, but I mean like they're internally like you're upset, like you're getting upset. What they're saying doesn't make sense. You just want to hang up the phone. Hey, Jordan, I'd love to talk to you all day. I really would. But I have so many families we're catching up with. As I mentioned in the beginning, we're so behind. So would you want to put the protection in place for your family or not? And then from there, it's going right back to that, Jordan, because like sometimes sitting in that seat can be difficult to kind of get the person off the phone. But that's just what I used to do in the home too, because people want to tell me their life story for 3 hours, like I was their therapist, and then not get the insurance. And it's like, hey, Susie, I could talk to you all day, but I have so many other families I have to see, and I'm already really, really behind. So is the insurance something that you want to move forward with, or you're all set at this point in time? And then just getting off the line. That's how I like to dismiss myself. So just wanted to bounce that out there too for you.
Exactly what Christina said. Yeah, if someone's not doing an application, you should be off the phone in 15 minutes. If you are doing an app, guys, and this is my personal experience, I talked to Maurice about this recently. I've noticed every single phone call that I do sell, I'm on there for 45 minutes to an hour. I mean that. Any telephone appointment I'm on that's less than 30 minutes, I am not closing. I mean that, zero. Like 0 out of 10. Like I'm counting them. Every single appointment that's less than 30 minutes, it's a no-go. That's how you know you're going too fast. That's how you're like, okay, I'm not asking the right questions. I'm not taking my time, doing my due diligence, and trying to really bring up the need and remind the family like why they want the insurance. It's not just about showing the best product, but again, it's about tying it back down to why they need it. That's the whole reason why we make so much money here, guys, is because we do a really good job at telling the client why they need it and exactly, how can we find the solution to the problem. But if you don't present the problem, you can't present a solution. So keep in mind that you always want to find the pressure point and just always stick to it. And on the phone, and in general with an appointment, it's okay to push a client 10 times in a row until they finally say yes. Paul McCartney used to always say, you may have to push a client 15 times literally until they finally tell you get a yes. I had that happen recently. I had this guy, Anthony, I'm on the phone with, talking to him for like probably an hour. He keeps trying to tell me, I don't think, this sounds good from Rami. I get it. I want it, but I don't think I can make the decision today. And I'm like, why? I'm like, what's the deal? What's going on? Why can't you make a decision right now? He's like, well, Rami, I'm not sure. So instead of me, just saying, all right, it's okay, I'll call you back. I said, okay, why? People usually, they don't make a decision, not because they need more time, because they need more information. So I said, did I confuse you or did I not give you enough information? And then at that point, he told me, he's like, no, he's like, you know what? I got a little confused with this IUL stuff. He was like, the cash value, I understand, but this whole market BS, he said verbatim, he said, the market bullshit, I don't get it. And he's like, this is confusing. I thought this was mortgage insurance. And I said, hey, slow down. I'm like, let me go back. Let me reiterate to you. I explained the product again. Even then, he's like, all right, I kind of get it, but still, I'm like, it doesn't really make too much sense. I'm like, is it a value or is it a price thing? He admitted it's price. He was like, hey, it's not about this. It's more about how much it costs. So I said, fine, let me show you a term. Let me show you a basic term, no money back, no cash value, nothing. And he liked it. He was like, this is what I wanted. He was like, this is what I've been looking for. He was like, everyone I'm talking to, then he finally opened up. He's been shopping around. He's like, everyone's trying to pitch me this cash money, cash value, like nesting egg, he's calling it. And I'm like, all right, no, you just want traditional mortgage insurance. And if I didn't literally push him 5 different times, telling him like, hey, is it price related, value related? Do you think you're not going to qualify? And all these things. So I just said, okay, I'll call you back. I wouldn't have made the sale, but I wanted to make it clear to him that if I'm confusing you, let me know. If you need more information, let me know.
Is that when you change your script, Rami? Because I noticed you added that or changed your script with the term versus, or I don't remember how you say it, but is that when you did that?
Yes, it is. Yes. When
That
I see
was
the
awesome.
P and I see the 20.
I did notice
exactly.
that. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's what I do now. So what I'll do, guys, is what Heather's talking about is from now on, instead of only showing the universal, I'll do P for permanent. I don't even call it an IUL. I say P for permanent. And then I say just 20-year term or 15-year term, whatever it is. And I just say the similarities are this, the living benefits, the death benefit. And the only difference, I say now this bottom one is the permanent, and I explain it. And then most of the time, the good thing is now they understand it more. Like, okay, they understand the differences, and it's helping me, translate to the client. Yes, and it's helped a lot, guys. Don't be afraid to show a client more than one option. I mean that. Like I showed a client yesterday. I showed him pay and protect, a decreasing term. I showed him a traditional UL and a traditional term. And then he ended up going with the decreasing term. He was like, hey, this actually makes more sense to me. I want it. Now, don't confuse the client, right? I don't want you guys to send them 18 different quotes or messages, but the main point is don't be afraid to sit there and say, all right, these are your options. Like, you are the broker. So don't be afraid. Like, I know we always say 3 options, but it's okay to have 3 options and 3 different products for each option. And the family, they actually like that. Like, hey, you're actually showing me everything, and it serves them and it serves us. So they really know, like, okay, I'm making the right choice. They don't feel blindsided. I've had a client, call me back and say, I love you, Rami. You were great. You did everything the right way, but you never told me there was a decreasing product. You never told me there's one that, it's a little bit cheaper and it protects the mortgage and death, but I don't want the sickness stuff. So just keep in mind, that sometimes the family, they don't always want living benefits. You just want to give them, protection for the family. So don't be afraid to, show more than one option.
So when you explain that, I go through the role and purpose, explaining that I'm a broker. I work with these different companies, much more individual to that person, not to the companies. How do you deal with people that are just like, that are shopping around still, like even after you explain that and be like, oh, well, I can go find a cheaper price somewhere else?
So like if someone tells you like, oh, okay, like I can find it cheaper.
Yeah.
And are you showing the best rate? Like, do you know in your heart, like, you're showing the best rate possible?
Yeah, after literally doing your due diligence, right? Looking at 4, 5, 6, 7 different companies, right? Out of those 6 different companies, you found
Yeah.
2 companies that are pretty similar, and then they still try to say like, "Oh, well, I can find a better price," or "I got this person over here that can go
Yeah.
get."
You know what I say? Literally, I say I have 1,000 clients who would take that same exact product, that same exact price, get me the contract, show me the policy, and I'll take it. I'll get my contract. I'll help all my families. But if you really are looking at the cheapest policy possible, like national and like the straight terms, we can definitely beat it. I mean that truly. Like, there's never out, only very rarely full medical maybe. And tell them that. Say like, say, sir, I do the shopping around. I work with 85 companies. Log into NAIC. Show him all your appointments. You can log in to your resident. If you log in your resident license page, you can take a picture of every single company you're contracted with. It will show all of them. You can send that and say, I work with all these companies. They're all top rated. And I always remind them that it's based off your age. Yes, exactly. Accident increasing term. And say it's based off your age and gender, sir. Say it's like buying a bottle of water at Poland Springs from 7-Eleven, CVS, right at a Walgreens. Poland Springs may be 6 cents more expensive at Walgreens, maybe 5 cents cheaper at CVS, but it's never going to be $2, $3, or $3 more expensive. Poland Springs is Poland Springs. Your insurance is based off your age and your gender, those 2 factors, and health determines which product you can qualify for. But the price follows those metrics. So if you can explain that and say, and they're still adamant, tell them, sir, find that product, send it to me, and then I'll be able to help all my families. Because odds is they can't. They're just being defensive at that point. They're just trying to say like, hey, I saw this on TV, $9.99 for $1 million a month, and then just tell them, hey, as what I say now, guys, to be honest, I say, all right, go ahead, do the shopping around. Even though I did it for you, I'll give you 7 days, and at least give me the right to match it or offer you a better offer. At least offer me that right. And then sometimes you get a call back, and they'll say, all right, here, this is what I got, and then now they figure out it was not the right rate. They say that, okay, I had to do a medical exam, now it declined, or it was a female 18-year-old rate. So the main thing being is a lot of people will tell you they can get it better. Explain to them that you understand they think that. However, you do the shopping around. If they don't believe it, it may be due to credibility. But at the end of the day, just say, hey, you don't believe me, go check the policy out and call me back when it's more expensive. And they will. They'll actually remind you for that and be like, all right, I remember Jordan, it was cheaper. And they'll call you back. All right. Does anybody else have any question or want to touch on that, how they might handle that? All right. Any questions, guys, regarding the phones or any type of mindset or sales in general? Any sales struggles you guys are struggling with? Relaying certain concepts?
I got another question. What do you do for leads that like you can't get in contact with? They'll dial and then you'll get to the voicemail. You'll hear the voicemail, it's that person, but like you can't get, like, they're not answering the phone. So how do you take care and disposition those leads?
Hi there. I know you have an answer for this one.
I do.
She's great.
Oh,
She's
I use my
all
CRM
automation.
highly. I use my CRM highly with dispositions. I call them one time, twice, dial them twice. If they don't answer, I text them. I don't text them. It texts them. I press a disposition button. So then, again, calendar. I redial them one time a week. I have one time where I dial my no pickup, no text, no voicemail. I then leave a message if it's that person you're talking about. If I hear the person's voice and it says I'm so and so, or just if I hear a voice, I'll leave a very brief message. Hey John, this is Heather. Just getting back to you about the request you submitted. Give me a call back. And then I give my phone number and that's it. Hang up. After that, it just, the system will drip on them periodically. They'll either call back, and most of the time people will respond back saying, oh, I was on vacation, I'm so sorry, something like that. So use your automation that you have in front of you. What CRM are you using?
The CRM center.
Yeah, they have an awesome built out system. So utilize that automation. I don't ever call them up again.
Are you
unless it's after
tagging
that
your,
second time?
sorry, Heather, are you tagging
No.
the leads in there, Jordan, so it's automatically dripping on them?
Yeah, so it is automatically dripping.
Okay,
Some
perfect.
people respond back obviously to stop the text messages, but yeah, it's automatically dripping on them all the time. Like every 2 days or so. But then obviously I gotta keep loading.
And you know that just because they say stop does not mean they don't want you to call, right? You know that.
Oh yeah, no. As soon as they say stop, that's when I'm
Okay.
calling. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
they got the messages.
Yeah, because
got
they
the
think,
messages, I
yeah,
call them right away.
that, and they think you're a telemarketer because we have to put that. And that's the beauty of having a CRM, is we know we're compliant.
Mhm.
So I know it's hard as a new agent going and texting through your phone, and it's just something you have to do until you have that first paycheck where you can afford a CRM. That's one of the things I tell my agents. As soon as you get that first policy, use 150 of it to get a CRM, because at that point your business is gonna, I'm sure you've seen it, you get so much more response.
Yeah, definitely a lot more efficient.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Automation's key. It is true. All right. Any other questions? Just keep in mind, guys, again, just in order to sell a lot here, and I mean this, just be yourself. I mean that. Like, don't be someone you're not. Don't try to act like me and be like all this directness. Don't try to, sound like as fresh as Marisa. She's very, very fresh from Christina. Just try to be just very, yourself. Just like they use their personalities to their benefit. I mean that. Same thing with me, as you guys can tell. Like, sometimes you on the phone and I'm just like fed up. But at the end of the day, I understand that, the families, they need help. And just keep that in your mind that they need the help. And then as long as you be yourself, just have a normal conversation, mentioning a couple points, a couple red tracks, they're gonna feel that you're a human and they're gonna, want to protect their family with you. There's been a lot of times where like recently, as of late, I'm just trying to more connect with the client, and then they're telling me like, hey, like the reason why we're doing this is because you took the time to actually explain it, go through it. And they always say, we spoke to someone last week, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. And my main point is like, they tell me that not to say like, hey, you're better than them, but you took your time. Like, like you actually took your time to explain what it is, and you weren't like a robot. You weren't just like sounding like you're reading a script. They say, I've heard people tell me that, like, you're not reading a script, you don't have no dog and pony show. You're just here trying to help me and my family. That's what I tell all you guys to do. Just be yourself and it'll work. I mean that. Just keep in mind the leads. Leads is key. Without the leads, guys, the business will go astray. So you need to have leads on deck at all times.